This is the sixth decade of my life, from 1976 to 1986. Anne was 18 to 28. David was 15 to 25. John was 13 to 23, and Laurie was 11 to 23. Anne would have graduated from high school, going to college. Dave was 10, and he would be going to college at the end of the decade. John was in 8th grade. He would have been going to college. And Laurie was in the 6th grade, and she would have been going to college. Besides having 4 high school graduations, we had 1 college, which was Anne. I have mentioned just a few events that have happened, quite a few, of this decade without details and repetition, because Laurie has created, as I've shown you before, 31 of the most beautiful family memory books. This is one of the books. She has all the details, documents, cards, letters, photographs, the whole thing. So it's all right there, unnecessary for me to repeat, as I said before. We'll start with Anne. In 1976, the spring of 1976, Anne graduated from Cherry Creek High School. She had French honors, which was a wonderful thing. She excelled in science and French and decided to major in French. First of all, she had a summer job right after she graduated. She worked at King Soopers and she babysat just for extra money. And then in the fall, she enrolled at the University of Northern Colorado, UNC, majoring in French, and that was in Greeley. John, in the meantime, was in West Middle School. He was in his 5th year of violin and really excelling beautifully. He was already in 2 orchestras, one at West High School and then the other one in Aurora. In the spring of '77, the family made our 5th trip to California. We drove nonstop, 15 hours, from Denver to California. It was right after my last dance class, Saturday at 12 o'clock. The car was packed. We didn't waste a minute. We hopped in the car, even packed our lunches so we could eat that in the car too. And off we went. The children each had their own corduroy pillowcases, identifying their own pillows, and they sprawled out in the back of the station wagon. There was plenty of room. We were so excited, all of us. When we arrived in Pueblo, we had our Kentucky Fried Chicken, which took care of our dinner. And then the children were able to sprawl out. We didn't have seat belts then, so it was sort of a free space, you might call it. But Al and I traded off, and in 15 hours, we were there in Laguna, our favorite place. We stayed again at the Surf and Sand with a beautiful view of the ocean and also of the swimming pool below. There's so many things we did there that I'm not even going to be able to mention in this short period of time. Then in the summer, I forgot my pictures. The flowers in California were absolutely gorgeous. They were all over the hills. It was a sight to behold. And this summer, it was our second home. We didn't travel. We just stayed home or were at Skyline. Lori was involved in tennis and swimming and aquatics. Here she is shaking hands with Liz Leibel after a match. She was also in aquatics and did some lovely performance in the water. Dave was a master at tennis. He loved tennis. Dixon Anderson kept challenging him to move up the ladder, and Dave said, okay. Dave won every time, but Dixon kept challenging him. Didn't bother David. He just accepted and went and played and so forth. John was in swimming also, swimming and diving and tennis. He and his friend Mike worked out together. Mike was quite a diver at the time, and John was just starting out. He wanted to learn how to dive. And at the end of the summer, he came in third in state, just being a ranked beginner. That was pretty good. Here he is waiting his turn for the swim meet. Reminds me of the time that he couldn't find his nose plug, and he was in this position. He moved up to the front. We finally were able to get him some nose plugs at the last minute. Here he is diving. He just made up his mind he was going to do it, and he did it. And here he is playing tennis with Withridge, Dave Withridge, and he was a partner of Dave's also. They had a good time together. And this summer also, there's plenty to do with the family, so we took advantage of it. I even had time to swim during adult swim and also be on the B team of the tennis. It was fun. John and David did so many things together. They're very, very compatible. Along with Lori, they raised ducks in the backyard. It was a good place with the ducks, too. And here, David and John are on their bikes. They bicycled so many places. We had a bike path, and they went quite a distance. This was Lori's 12th birthday, and Dave had just turned 16. David and John bought Lori a piñata, and that's what they were doing here, having her break the piñata on her birthday. David, being 16, was a good driver. Lori wanted to learn how to drive, so she had her big brother teach her how to drive. She's an excellent driver now. They went to the cemetery and drove along the quiet, narrow streets. It was an ideal place to learn. Here David is in Cherry Creek High School, a freshman. As a freshman, he started out, and we hardly knew anything about what he was doing. He just never talked about it, never talked about himself. But in state, he came in first in state, being a freshman and a newcomer at wrestling. He didn't say anything, but we finally found out what he was doing. His coach would ask him to lose weight so that he would qualify for featherweight. He didn't complain or say anything. We wondered why he wasn't eating very much, and he just didn't say anything. But we found out finally that that was the reason he wanted to lose weight, so he could qualify. And here's his team. Lori, in the meantime, was in volleyball at West High School, West Middle School. in 1978, Anne decided to transfer from UNC to CU in Boulder and change her major to chemistry. She was invited, after Rush, she was invited back by all the sororities, but she decided not to pledge her first year because she had a pretty heavy schedule in her courses in chemistry. Here's the family together on one of our Christmas cards. In 1980, John was he qualified for the Young Artist Orchestra, which is the young orchestral musicians, and it was quite an honor. They played for various fundraisers, and he loved being part of it. Here we are again. I just had to sneak in another family picture. And John, after that, first of all, he was in competition as far as, he had to qualify for different orchestras and so forth. But he played a Wieniawski D minor violin solo and earned top rating for that. And then he and Carrie Wiley won first rating in their duet together. But he was up and coming. He didn't stop. He wanted to do the best, and he was the best. Then along came his opportunity with Cherry Creek High School Orchestra in the spring of '81 to perform most beautiful violin concerto, 18 minutes, in front of a huge audience, flawless, and seemingly he was very calm. He did a magnificent job. The instructor or the orchestra leader would speed up a little bit in the music, but John kept right up with him. John wouldn't let anything deter his determination. It was a standing ovation. It was only the clapping and applause, but the cheering. People just couldn't believe what a wonderful performance it was, and for such a difficult selection. Here he is receiving a bouquet of flowers, and it was breathtaking. The only thing I regret is the fact that he didn't have the opportunity to play this very same selection for other people on other occasions. It would have been wonderful because he put so much time into it. You never know. He would be practicing and go on to one thing or another, and it was just part of his life. And he was determined to do it and excel and do the very best he could, and it was beautiful. Here's the orchestra. Cherry Creek High School qualified to be invited to Austria to perform in the International Youth Music Festival that they had in July. When it came time for trials for concertmaster, John, of course, was tops. In high school, during the Cherry Creek performance previously that I mentioned, John was more concerned with his solo than he was being concertmaster. So during trials, he pulled out his 3/4 beginning violin, and it didn't bother him whether he had it or not, but he did not qualify for the concertmaster. He was put back a little farther. And after the performance, somebody had said, I wonder what the concertmaster sounds like if John, who is not a concertmaster, performs like this. I'm going back a little bit, but I thought that was pretty neat. This is in Austria, where they performed. Magnificent area. And the group, there were, I think, 18 in the orchestra, but they traveled in Switzerland and Germany as well. They had a marvelous time. But they came in first. First of all, they were, Cherry Creek was 1 out of 5 of the high school that qualified. And they came in, Cherry Creek came in first in the high school competition and 3rd in the overall. It was, this is the world. This is the best in the world. This is a picture that was taken by Amoco Oil. Now that's where Al was working. And just before Al retired, they published just sort of an outline of John and his accomplishments. And they went on and on about his background and what he's done. At the time, in the last 6 years, they said that they indicated that he was in the Centennial Orchestra as the concertmaster, and the All-State Orchestra as the associate concertmaster. He was in the Cherry Creek Orchestra and also the Cherry Creek Chamber Music. He had, in the last 6 years, he had received an all excellent rating. This is the article that stated all those things about John. David's 18th birthday. Our Dave. And the family again. This is Dave and Ann. We had Christmas at Angels in the fall. Let's see, what was that? I think, yeah, in the fall. I mean, in the Christmas time, and Mother was, she was a tiny little thing. Everybody kind of knows about her by now, but she used to have Christmas every December, every year. She wanted to do it on her own. She did this until she was 90 years old. But she'd have turkey dressing, cranberry sauce, potatoes gravy, cauliflower peas, homemade cinnamon rolls, and her homemade Christmas cookies. Then after dinner, we'd sit around her on the floor while she was on the little sofa and open up the menagerie of presents that she had around her. It was fun. It was a wonderful time. When we went to her house, one Christmas, it wasn't this Christmas, it was the biggest snow that they'd ever had. It was on Christmas Day. She insisted we'd come anyway, and we did. All of us that were here in Denver made our way. We couldn't even drive into her area in front of her house. We had to walk about a block and a half in our snow boots and our warm clothing, but we all made it. It was fun. It made it all the more exciting, but we made it. And John was in the Cherry Creek Quartet and chamber music and quartet, and he played. He was one of the four who played in his cousin Judy Hall's wedding. It was a beautiful performance. And here David is in high school. This is his birthday again. And John also played with David Vogtsel with the violin. They were good buddies. And John met so many wonderful friends that he has even today. David graduated from Cherry Creek High School, and he decided not to go to Boulder on campus, but he wanted just to stay in Denver and go to CU Extension. He was quiet, and he was seemingly very calm. He took everything in his stride. He was a very loving person. This is the time that all three of the fellows, we might say, just took off for the mountains. This is one of the last times that they were together. And they just wanted to drive up the mountains and walk around and enjoy, after all that been behind him, all the excitement. John was all dressed up for the senior prom before graduation. He and Stephanie were dating, and they looked absolutely adorable. John was offered a full scholarship by DU for his violin excellency, but he turned it down because he did not want to continue with music. He wanted to go into business instead. So he enrolled in Colorado University in Boulder with a liberal arts degree, hopeful. There's Lori. The minute Lori turned 16, she had her own car. She was dying to have her own car. This is the most adorable red 1965 Volkswagen, the Bug, which had a license plate of 65 Rosebud. And even the windows were etched with flowers. It was just adorable. This happened to be the last year of this car, 1965, being made before they changed the style. And it just wasn't anything like the old one. The old ones were so unique. But she would like to take Anne places and do things with Anne. Anne did not have a car. Lori was in the Corral, the Cherry Creek Corliers, right? And just a wonderful opportunity. She had a lovely voice. And she was on the tennis team also at Cherry Creek. John was about to graduate. He painted. He was quite a painter. He and Dave had a business earlier together calling the Brush Brothers. And they made quite a bit of money, but it was pretty much of a chore. I didn't like him up on those highlighters. But John was fast. He would paint from morning to night. He would just be steady like he does everything else. And he made enough money to make him feel comfortable before he went to college. When David, in the fall, after John graduated, David took John to Boulder to get started and settled in his dorm. David asked John if he would hit a few golf balls with him before getting things settled, and John said he just had so much to do that he couldn't do it. And John, of course, David was a little disappointed, but he understood, and he left John at that point. John built a loft in his dorm a little later on, which I thought was very clever. But David came home, and he was quiet, didn't say anything. And he asked Al if he could borrow the car, our car, because his was in the shop. He had a Dodge Challenger that'd been in the shop for way too long and left Dave without a car. So Dave took our little car, and we just said, under one condition, that you please let us know where you are and when to expect to see you, that we want to be sure that, just to keep track. And of course, Dave nodded and he left. And he didn't come home the next day. So I was teaching school, and so we called the sheriff, and they found his car later on in a little parking area in Rawlingsville near the Moffat Tunnel. The car hadn't been broken into, but we couldn't figure out, so they had a crew that scoured the area and couldn't find a trace. And it wasn't until over 20 years after that, in '06, that they found David's remains. And then we knew for sure what had happened. Dave and John did a few things before he actually settled down in school. This was before. Then Lori was about to graduate. And it was in 1984. She had a date with her friend Jim Bowes. She looked absolutely adorable in her dress. This is your graduation picture. Lori worked at least 6 jobs throughout her high school. You couldn't stop her. She had all the energy and independency you'd ever imagine. She took care of herself. She never asked for anything. She just did it. And she always wanted her own money. I think she had a car in mind at the time. John came home in 80, well, it was 2 years after he graduated, and he kind of had a reunion with his buddies. It was fun. Al retired, and now this is his turn at the sink. He didn't know what kitchen duty was very much of the time. Then in the next spring, John and Lori joined us during spring break for a California trip. It was wonderful. They're grown up all of a sudden. It was a beautiful trip. Then it was my 40th high school reunion. So we took off in the fall. Was it the fall? Yes, and went to my reunion in Tucson, Arizona. We had a lot of fun, and was so glad I was able to go. Here I am dressed up for one of the occasions. Then Lori, in 1985, she turned 20. I was still a member of Skyline Acres, and I had fun with, we had team parties all the time, and I had the summer off from teaching, so I really took advantage of it. Then John came home in 86, not came home, but he graduated from CU, so there's a whole 4-year span that I did not make account of. But here he is. He received a degree in liberal arts, and he wasn't sure just what direction he was going, but he did get a job immediately, and I'll carry on through this in the next decade.